Have you seen Across the Spider-Verse yet? If not, go watch it right now. I don't know what you're doing, but if you have, let's get right into that spoiler review.
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
Alright, first off, I want to say thank you to all the creators behind this movie. I know probably none of you are watching my video right now, but thank you to Phil Lord and Chris Miller, our writers, Joaquin Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson, our directors, and all the famous animators, Metro Boomin for the score, Daniel Pemberton for the score also. Metro Boomin did the soundtrack. Thank you to all of them. Thank you to all the actors, the voice actors in this one. Man, let's get to it though. I think that this movie is so astonishing. I haven't felt this way about a movie in so long. It's been forever since I felt this much love and this much like wanting to go back and see it again. Like, I've seen it a lot so far. I'm not going to say how many times I've seen it, but let's just say I've seen it a lot so far. But I'm not bored. Every time I'm going, I'm not bored of this movie, and I just want to go see it again and again. I think there's something so special about this movie that you just don't get in other movies now. Like, we've had Guardians, John Wick, Air, all those other great movies, but this one is just has so much care put into it, and I think it's just rewatchability is so strong because of all the little details in this movie. We're gonna go over some of the details, but I can't even spot all those details while watching in the theater. You need to pause it when you own it on home video, and I will own it, and I'm gonna pause it, go over it many times just to see what's going on in this movie, because there's millions of like little details that are in this movie. But as I said, I love this movie so much. It's risen to one of my favorite movies of all time, and I don't care. It's not recency bias because as I said, I've seen it many times, so how would it be recency bias? I'm not bored of it. I'm not over it. I think it's just one of those movies that just sticks with me personally because I grew up with animated movies. I love animated movies, and I feel like this one is just, I like this kind of animated movies with kind of like a darker feel, kind of like darker themes, tones, scores, characters, and this one has all those. It checks all those boxes. So my thing is, if you don't like it, that's fine, but you can't say that having it in my top like films of all time is recency bias because I've seen it multiple times, and I'll probably watch it even more. I'm trying to break my record of the most times I've seen a movie in a theater, and I bet this one will do it, and Beyond will break it. But let's get right into the opening of this movie. You know, we open on the logos of how Spider-Verse, the first one, opened. We opened by Pascal Pictures, and then Comics Authority, that little stamp on there. And then you get that little cough in the bottom right corner. I thought that's a really cool detail going in. I was like, wow, I like that detail. And then we get kind of like this montage thing of Gwen. She's a drummer in her world. She's drumming along. It starts off slow. You get those little drum beats. Instead of actually seeing the drums at first, you see those little drum beats. And I want to say that kind of reminded me a little bit, if you've seen Ratatouille, and I bet a lot of you have. If you haven't, go watch Ratatouille. If you've seen Ratatouille, when the guy eats the ratatouille and he gets like those flavors bursting on the screen, all those different colors bursting, that kind of reminded me of that scene while watching Across the Spider-Verse, seeing like the drums burst every time she hit it. I was really reminded of that. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Probably not, but it's a really cool little detail that I noticed. And then she literally explains basically the first movie. So if you haven't seen the first movie, you're good to go into this movie, but I'd still recommend seeing the first movie. There's a lot of details, a lot of comedy that really jumps over to the second movie, so you should see the first movie before you watch it. But she kind of explains the first movie, kind of like explains Miles' story for him, and she said he's not the only one. It explains how like she kind of like, I really enjoyed how this movie kind of did like a Sam Raimi type of thing, but not in like a bigger way than Sam Raimi did. Because Sam Raimi has his Spider-Man movies, his opening credits kind of like shows the whole movie, and you don't really know it yet, but it's kind of really prominent and not really a thing that I like personally, because I thought it was too prominent. But Across the Spider-Verse does kind of the same thing, where it shows shots of Gwen and Miles, their development through this movie, shows shots of the whole movie. But it's so fast and so like little that you don't know what's going on. You're like, oh, is this from the first movie or is this from this one? And like, it's really little, but I really like that addition to it. And I really liked how it's kind of like a somber kind of like feel, because she's saying, I didn't want to hurt him, but I did. And we later learned she did hurt him, and so did a lot of the people that Miles loves. They hurt him in this movie, and they didn't want to. She says, I didn't mean to, because she didn't know what she was getting into through this whole movie. And man, I didn't know what I was getting into watching this movie. Like, I didn't know it was going to change my way of life, change what I love, but it did. And I really did love that opening. I think it's a really strong opening. I love how it started with Gwen, and it makes me wonder what Beyond the Spider-Verse will open with, what character we're going to start with on that one. Maybe we'll start with the Prowler Miles. I'm getting ahead of myself, but maybe him. But the opening was great. But let's just move on to Gwen's whole world. I think that Gwen's world in this one is my favorite universe. There's a little bit of universes that we go to, but Gwen's world is my favorite. I think that there's so much to love about her world. There's all these little pastel colors. It's like finger paint kind of ish right there. And it just reminded me of just like some happy times, you know. It feels like a comfort kind of universe. There's like no dark colors in it. Like, I was trying to look for lots of dark colors, but it's a lot of like neon, kind of like really light blues, pinks, yellows. I kind of saw yellows, more reds, whites, all of that. You really get that in the universe more than any dark things. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. And I really like the one scene when Gwen goes to go hug her dad, and it just starts basically the pink just floods in off of them to the background. I really like that a lot. I think that's really sick, and I feel like every shot switches like different colors, and I really did like that a lot. And then basically Gwen goes to go stop the Vulture. I really did like the score when she was swinging through her world. I like that score a lot. Then when she goes to fight the Vulture, we learn that the Vulture is like made out of parchment, like she kind of says in the movie, kind of like paper-esque, and then it just goes through how it was sucked out of like an old school, old towny little dimension. I really did like the design of him. He moved like, I don't know, like a really low frame rate, I guess you could say, and I really did enjoy that a lot. And like they're fighting for a little bit. Gwen almost like gets hit by him, but then out of a portal comes Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, and that score was so cool when he popped through the portal. Man, that score was really cool and awesome to listen to in IMAX. It was loud. It was awesome. I loved it. It felt like so electronic, so futuristic, which really fits him because he's from 2099. And then they go on a little spiel. They fight the Vulture, and then basically Gwen gets captured by her dad, and then she has to take off her mask. Her dad finds out who she is. And I really liked the little conversation they had and all the colors that were going on in that scene. Like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. The animation is so beautiful. I don't know how they got away with it. I don't know how they made it. I don't know how your computers could handle that. Like, my, oh my. But I love the little speech between them. I thought that was great. And then Gwen has to leave, basically, because she does not want to get caught anymore. She's leaving with Miguel and Jess Drew. I actually like Jessica Drew a lot. She was kind of more menacing. And, like, I thought she was going to be more friendly to Miles, but she's more on Miguel's side, which I was very surprised by. So I guess I shouldn't really be liking her, because I don't know if she's, like, good or bad. She's kind of, like, in the middle. But Gwen goes away with Miguel and Jess Drew. And then we get that little cut to black, and then you get the full intro of Across the Spider-Verse. And then we go Miles Morales gets his intro, and it just starts off great from there. We're in the home world, 1610, I think it is, Miles's world. He's basically late to the meeting of the school counselor with his parents. And we get that little Spot intro where the Spot goes into the store. This clip is released also. If you haven't seen it, go watch the clip. But Spot goes into the store and he's trying to steal an ATM. And some of the lines that Jason Schwartzman says are just brilliant, bro. The voice work by him is so funny. Every line that comes out of his mouth before he turns like fully evil is hilarious. I think my favorite line is, "This is my first time robbing someone. Don't make this a bad experience." I thought that was so funny. And he's like, I forget the line, but he's like, oh man, I forget it. But there's so many great lines here. And then Miles basically comes and tries to capture him. He kind of does, but it took him a while. It took him a couple tries. But I gotta say, the animation of Spot also stood out a lot. I feel like his animation was so crisp, and all the little holes, all the little spots that he was making, everything going through it is just so flawless on how everything's just working. I don't know. I don't know how they did it, man, but I feel like the Spot was flawless. And it was the villain that I was worried about going into the movie, but I came out thinking like, man, he could really be one of the greatest comic book villains of all time if they do well with him and his like full evilness in Beyond the Spider-Verse, because now he's going to be full evil. But I liked in the first half how he's just a silly villain no one's taken seriously, or as Miles likes to call him, villain of the week. He's a villain of the week, and he was hurt by that, and so he went on an epic run just to go full nemesis to Miles. But I gotta say, I really did like the Spot a lot. I liked his comedy a lot in the first half. But then Miles captures him for a little bit, and then he goes to the counselor meeting with his parents, which of course he's late to because he's Spider-Man. He has to go save the world. And I felt like this counselor meeting it was kind of interesting how it got right what everyone kind of faces with their parents. Like when he's talking about like going to the school in New Jersey and saying like, I want to learn about electrons. I want to learn about quantum physics. And his dad's like, yep. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, yep, that's totally true. Parents don't know what you're talking about in this new school system. No one knows what you're talking about. But I really enjoyed that bit. I thought that bit was really good. I don't know who voiced the counselor, but I think she did a great job. And I thought that whole scene was really like fast paced. None of these like talking or speech scenes went on for too long. And you really captivated into each one of them. And I thought this one was one of them. I thought this little scene right here had so many laughs in it. All my audiences were laughing when I saw all these times. And this one really got it because Miles' dad, Jeff, he was so funny. He is so funny through the first movie and this movie, so I liked him a lot. And then they basically, Miles has to go and fight the Spot because he escaped, of course, through his many holes that he creates. He has a lot of holes. And then we get we go to Alchemax, and then Spot's origin is actually told there. Spot tells a little origin story to Miles. And I thought that this origin was done so perfectly. I was like kind of blown away how they used the bagel from Into the Spider-Verse to make Spot like kind of who he is and kind of bring him up. Because if you remember in Into the Spider-Verse, someone gets hit with a bagel, and that was the Spot who got hit with a bagel before he turned into the Spot. And Miles's spider that bit him was actually from Earth 42, which is a universe that didn't have a Spider-Man now because the spider is gone and it bit Miles of this Earth 1610. So that's how Miles became Spider-Man. Spot brought the spider over, and then that's how he is now. And Spot became Spot because he was in the Collider room when Miles blew it up, when he had put his hand on Kingpin and said, hey. And that's how basically all that happened. And that's how Spot is who he is. Miles created Spot. Spot created Miles. So they're like interconnected in more ways than one. And I thought that origin was really smart because there's a lot of different paths that you can take it down in Beyond because they're like both interconnected. They're both connected with each other. So Miles maybe wants to help him, but he also wants to destroy him. And Spot really just wants to be, taken seriously. So that's what brought him down the evil path later in the movie. But oh my goodness, when Spot is like in his little dimension and he's going through every universe, he goes through one of the old town universes, and then he goes to the Venom universe, and then he goes to the Lego universe. Oh, that bit was hilarious when he's at the Lego universe and you have that Lego Spider-Man and he goes and he's like Pete, and he's like he's just so funny. I love that little gag. That gag got a lot of laughs out of everyone. And then you basically go back to Miles' world. He's gets in a fight with his parents because he's late again, as always. And then we go to Miles and Gwen. Miles goes into his room. He's mad. He's got grounded for 2 months. Man, that's a long time. 2 months is a long time. He gets grounded. He lays on his bed. And let me just say, that song that he's listening to from the soundtrack by Metro Boomin, that song is just beautiful. That's my favorite song from this soundtrack. I loved it so much, and I don't know. I think this soundtrack I might like better than the first one, because the first one I only go back to maybe 3 songs. This one I'm listening to like the whole thing, 6 songs worth. I would love all the songs. But Hummingbird by James Blake, which plays in this scene, is just fantastic. It really hit in IMAX. But then Gwen comes through the portal. They get their little moment between them. They reunite with each other. It's kind of like an awkward thing because they're teenagers. They like each other, but they don't want to admit it. And then they kind of go through through the city, and then they start swinging around, having these little conversations. And then they go to the bank tower. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, the little bank tower. And I love their little conversation on the bank tower. I thought that was really heartfelt. That was in one of the trailers. How Gwen's explaining, because Miles is trying to get close with his hand. He's trying to like reach out, share his feelings. And then Gwen like holds back. She's like, every time Gwen falls for Peter or Spider-Man, it doesn't end well. And you get that little reference in your head. You start thinking, you're like, you get that little image. You're like, oh yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 clock tower scene. We all know what we're talking about here. We all know what you're trying to do. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are just amazing writers. I thought that line just brought me back to it. I don't know why I laughed, but it was kind of funny. But I thought that scene was beautiful. You know, the little upside down, kind of how Gwen just started walking and the camera turned with her, turned upside down. I thought that was amazing. That little camera movement, the little touches that you can do. I thought that was awesome. And then they go back to the barbecue where Jeff is having his little party because he's becoming the captain, which is going to turn into a canon event. I'll get into that a little bit later. And I really like their little conversation they have on the little tower that they're at the party, like kind of by the party, they're at that little tower. I like those little conversations. They're trying to get close again, but his parents come up. Gwen meets his parents, and then it gets kind of awkward because that's how it is. And then Gwen has to leave Miles and go do other stuff, track down the spot, see what he's doing. And then you also have another awkward scene of her leaving and just like shaking Miles' hand. Not even a hug. They're like really good friends. He doesn't even get a hug from her. That's horrible. She's just not even wanting it. I mean, it's kind of in front of his parents, so I get why, but that little handshake is just tough, man. It makes me wonder what's going to happen on the third one, man. Who knows? But then we get the little track down of where Spot is, and then they go to Mumbattan and visit Spider-Man India. I honestly, Mumbattan was like so visually stunning. Not as visually stunning as Gwen's world, but I thought it was like so interesting how they animated that world. I loved it a lot. And Spider-Man India, he was so funny. Do not call tea chai tea. Don't call it that. Now I know not to call it chai tea because he does not like it. But honestly, I love Spider-Man India. He was only really in this world. We didn't really see him after until the cliffhanger, but I liked what we saw of him. I love how he's even mentioning the romantic tension between Miles and Gwen. They know it. We all know it. Come on, just get together at this point. It's for the best. But they all know it. And then what happens in this universe, there's kind of like a big thing that happens in every universe. But what happens in Spider-Man India's universe, Spot goes to the Collider, Alchemex, and he gets the full power. He gets all powerful now. And now he's like fully dark. He's like fully dark Spot, you know, all blacked out. He's got all the spots on him. So he's like full Nemesis mode now. And he's really going through it. And then we have Hobie. Hobie shows up. Daniel Kaluuya did the voice. And let me tell you, this character is, I don't know, he's creeping up on me, man. He's like my third favorite character in this movie. I thought Daniel Kaluuya did the voice super well. And he was just hilarious. He was seriously an instigator this whole movie. He was not with it on either side. He just wanted to get out of there. He was not going for anything right now. But I thought Hobie was literally brilliant. He's my favorite way they animated the character. His animation is so cool. He changes colors, I guess, and changes like kind of animation styles. Every part of him is like animated at a different frame rate, which I thought was really unique. But I loved how he's like instigating Miles just to do it, just to go for it. You know, he helps him out with the palm thing. He's like, you got to go with the whole palm. You got to do it. And then it's just an insane way for a character to like, you know, go through it. Usually your character is not like an instigator like that, because Into the Spider-Verse, Peter B. Parker was more helping out Miles and not like instigating him. But Hobie went full instigator mode. He's like Miles' new best friend now by the end of the movie. But then we kind of go through Spider-Man India. They go through all that. Now we get to the 2099 world where the whole Spider Society is. I do love futuristic stuff a lot. I'm a big sci-fi fan. So seeing the 2099 world was really cool. I loved how they made that world. But seeing the whole Spider Society, the hundreds of Spider-Men that are in it, supposedly it's like over 200. I'm not really sure. But it's a lot. And it's a lot to take in. I know, it's like a visual feast. And like so much for the eyes. But I loved every second of it. And then we get the little cameo. Wait, maybe I shouldn't say little. It's a big cameo. It's Donald Glover's Prowler. Oh my goodness. What a cameo. And I was not even expecting it in the theater. I was like, what the hell? How did they get away with making this scene? I was like, this is one of the biggest cameos I've seen of all time, because we all watched Spider-Man Homecoming and are like, yeah, Donald Glover should play the Prowler. He should do the Prowler kind of stuff. And then they must have listened because they put him in the movie. And his costume was so cool. And I want to say the blend between live action and animation here was done so well. You don't really notice the blend too well. It doesn't really stand out that much. But I really did love seeing Donald Glover here. I thought that he was really cool. And I hope that we get to see him in the future. That would be really awesome. I would be down for a Spider-Man versus Donald Glover Prowler. Like, oh my goodness. Give me all the Prowlers with the theme that they have. Because the little theme that Daniel Pemberton does is really great. Then we get introduced to Miguel. Miguel's like a really bad guy in this. Like, I was like, calm down, Miguel. You gotta calm down. You're stressed out. Because I watched the trailers, I'm like, Miguel seems like he is in a bad mood. Maybe he's not that bad, but in fact, he is that bad. He's a really bad guy, and he's just going against Miles. You know, he's not with what Miles is about, and I don't know if I can support you, Miguel. I love your powers. Like, I loved his suit. I loved his like laser webs that he used. I thought that was awesome. But I'm like, I love your powers. I love your score, but I'm like not with you anymore, man. You got to support Miles. I support Miles. But I'm not with you, Miguel. You're a bad guy. But then Miguel starts explaining canon events. And I thought this canon event thing was really smart. And I don't know how they did it, but Sony explained the multiverse better than Kevin Feige will ever do at Marvel. And I'm saying that as I love Marvel. But I know Kevin Feige's going to find a way to ruin this multiverse. I know he's going to do it. I just know he's going to do it. It's going to make me so pissed. But canon events are kind of like all the Spider-Men, they have someone big die in their life, like Aunt May, Captain Stacy, their best friend, Aunt May, Uncle Ben. That's kind of like what happens. And what the canon events are saying is if you stop that event from happening and stop the person from dying, your universe is going to unravel and basically cease to exist. And that's basically like the simple description of it. Miguel explained it like that, and I thought that was very unique, and they didn't even need to explain it like more than they did. I thought that little explanation really helped everyone explain it. Like, if you're stupid, you'll still understand the canon events. And the canon events are going against Miles because Miles' dad was becoming captain, and he's going to die of the spot. That's the canon event. We already know it. We saw it in the future, because the spot had like kind of visions with Miles. So Miles saw that his dad is going to die to the spot as the canon event. And that's going to happen 2 days from when they're talking. And Miles is like, no, I'm not with that. I'm not with it. I'm going to save my dad. And I'm with Miles. You know, you got to do both. You got to save your loved one and you got to save your universe. He's going to find a way. We all know he's going to find a way in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And Miguel's like, nah, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I'm like, Miguel, calm down, bro. Give him a chance. Miguel, in fact, does not give him a chance because he captures him. He's like, nah, you got to go. And they kept calling him kid. I was like, yeah, I would get pissed too if I was Miles. I'm like, he's not really a kid. He's like a full-grown teenager. He's like 15. He can do a lot more than you guys can. So I was like, calm down. Don't call him kid. Miles gets mad. He breaks out with the palms because Hobie said, use the palms. And Hobie's like fully instigating him here. He's like, yeah, do it, Miles. Do it. Fight him. Break out. Breaks out. Miguel, it's now versus Miguel versus Miles. They have this whole fight. He goes against all the Spider Society, and he goes against Miguel on the train. And let me just say, this is one of the best sequences, I think, in the movie. It's like a whole 20-minute sequence, and I was blown away. There's so much happening on screen. You need to pause it like 100 times. I'm like, what the heck is happening? And then you have a really good needle drop scene. Not as good as What's Up Danger, but I think it's really good when Miles just fights Miguel on the train, and he's like, nah, I'm not with you, dude. I gotta do it. And he charges up both hands. The frame rate really changes. You can see it. And he charges everything up. And then he basically blasts Miguel. I thought that was awesome. And he's like, nah, I'm going home. Because he leaves Peter B. Parker and Gwen. And I think that they kind of betrayed him. Sadly, you know, they betrayed him, but they didn't mean to, you know. They weren't about it. as much as like Miles thinks they are. Miles really thinks they really betrayed him hard, but I doubt Peter B and Gwen really knew how bad Miguel was and what he was trying to do, because I think Miguel was fully trying to kill Miles at this point. He's like, I really just want to kill him at that point. And Peter B and Gwen, they probably just didn't know. So they probably just thought that Miguel was going to try to talk to him and not like this much. So I think that Miles thinking that they were fully betrayed him is going to go down a really deep path and beyond the Spider-Verse. And I think it's going to have such a cool redemption arc for those characters. And it's going to have a really cool moment of them reuniting, becoming loved ones again. I can't wait to see it. But then we get to the whole fight. Miles gets out. And then we get to that really cool twist. One of my favorite twists, man. That twist really got me. And I mean, I kind of guessed a little bit of it, but it still kind of got me. Because the way they do the twist is so interesting. Because we all know that Miles is back on Earth 42. He's not back on Earth 1610, his own world. He's on Earth 42, while Gwen and Miguel goes with Jess and Ben Reilly. I'm going to talk a little about Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly was played by Andy Samberg. I thought Ben Reilly was really cool. I'm not very familiar with the character, but I thought he was awesome. He was in it for a little bit. He didn't need to be in it for as long as he was, but I enjoyed him a lot. You know, he wasn't the main character, so no one should complain. He wasn't supposed to be in it for as long as he was, but I enjoyed him for all of it. So we get everyone, Miles is in the wrong universe, and they figure it out, and I thought that was such a cool twist. I'm like, oh my goodness, how'd they pull it off? But I thought the twist worked really well, and a lot of people didn't see it coming because of the way they had every edit, you know, because you didn't really see, it was dark, it was raining in each universe, so you didn't really know what was happening. You didn't know if he was in the wrong universe because of the way the events played out, you know, because Ben Reilly, his character, was guarding the window, Miles' window, and then he stops, and then Miles goes in it. So you think, oh, he is in the right Earth, but in fact, he still wasn't. I thought that was just a beautiful, like, direct, I thought that was just a beautiful vision, and I really liked it a lot. I really liked how the directors did it. They really planned it out really well. I loved how every little scene really made that work and made the twist even better, because in Earth 42, Miles' dad, Jeff, is already dead, and Uncle Aaron is still alive, and guess what? Miles in that universe is the Prowler. Oh man, that was awesome. I didn't get that twist, but I got the one where he's in the wrong universe. I got it a little bit through, but I didn't get the Miles was Prowler. Oh, he was so cool. He was so cool. I was like not prepared for how cool he's gonna look. But he looked so sick. He was awesome. We got that little twist. He's the Prowler. He looks sick, and I really did like how his hair is braided. Like that just shows how different the kind of like the characters are. And I love how he's just so menacing. He's like the really menacing Miles, and their confrontation at the end where he has his arm on the punching bag and Miles's finger is on the chain with the lightning starting to strike, and I love that. We're gonna have a fight of a showdown, like fight of the century in the next one between both Miles and Morales. It's gonna be amazing. But I just want to say, you see him with his finger on the chain. He has no emotion on his face. I bet he's holding back the freaking biggest grin of all time. He's getting ready to freaking blast the other Miles with electric ability, man. It's going to be so good. But I don't think the Prowlers stand a chance. You know, Miles he's grown up. He can do a lot. He can do a lot with his little like electric ability. I know there's a word for it, but I forgot what it is. But he's gonna get him so hard. I cannot wait. But then we get our new band, as Gwen likes to call them. She's like, I had to form a new band. You up for joining? In this band, oh man, this is also one of those moments that I was like, no way in the theater. I was like, oh my goodness. I had to gasp out loud in the theater. I was not prepared. We got all the new people, Spider-Man India, Hobie as Spider-Punk, Gwen, and then we got all of the old people, Peter B. Parker, we got Penny Parker, oh my gosh, Spider-Ham, played by John Mulaney. John Mulaney's coming back! Oh my goodness, John Mulaney's coming back after he did so well in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I cannot wait. His Spider-Ham was so funny. And then we got the GOAT, the legend himself, one of my favorite parts of Into the Spider-Verse, coming back, Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. Oh my goodness, when I saw him, I was like, Holy crap. I I don't know. I cannot wait. This new band of heroes that they got, this new team is fantastic. You got so many characters that have so like they just have so many differences, but they're all the same, kind of like in many different ways. But like all these characters, we know so much. That's why we're so hyped to see them, even though you've only seen them for just a little bit in the first movie and the second movie. But we're just so hyped to see them. We're so hyped for the next team up. I feel like this team up is going to go so hard. They're going to have to fight Miguel. They're going to have to fight the Spot. But oh man, this team up has so many possibilities that can happen. And this kind of goes with the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger was basically Miles has to fight the new Prowler. He has to find a way home. And Gwen and the new band have to go find him. But the cliffhanger also includes Miguel's trying to find him at the same time. And the Spot is trying to take over Miles' first world and try to kill Jeb. So there's so many different plots they're going to have to weave together and Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's what makes it a really good cliffhanger. Like, this cliffhanger reminds me of Infinity War, Empire Strikes Back. It might be my favorite cliffhanger of all time. I'm so hyped for the next one. We got to wait 10 months. Oh, I hope they don't delay it. I'll be the most mad person in the world if they delay this movie. I will be angry. But I thought, I don't know, if you're mad about the cliffhanger, I don't know why, because, I mean, you can say it's incomplete, but it's always been a part 1, part 2 story, and it just reminded me of, like if you read a book in a series, and you get that big cliffhanger at the end, it's not really completed in most stories. You have to go to that next book, because I remember, I'm reading books a lot, I get done with one book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go buy the next one, I can't wait. This cliffhanger is crazy. This reminded me of that. It's like a full-blown cliffhanger of what you want to happen. And I'm like, that's crazy. It kind of reminds me also of a mid-season finale in like a TV show. Kind of like, I watch Agents of the Shield a lot. I love that show. It reminds me of kind of like one of their mid-season finales. So I thought this cliffhanger was really well done. And as I said, it creates so many possibilities of what they're going to do with the new Miles Morales Prowler, what they're going to do with this new band of heroes. And I'm really excited because I feel like they could have some really cool and really great hype moments for the third one, because the third one's going to make so much money, because this one's making bank and we're just going to have more people find it. The third one's just going to do so well. I hope the third one makes $1 billion. As I said, you can have so many hype moments in the third one. I bet there's just going to be so many of them. My goodness, I just can't. I don't even want to think about the third one because we're not going to get it for a while. But overall, as I said in my main review and this one, I fell in love with this movie from the first scene, from the opening. As I said, I haven't felt this changed by a movie in so long. I haven't felt this great about a movie on first watch. It's not recency bias. I've seen it many times and I feel the same way. I have not gotten bored of it. You know, sometimes I go to the movie theater and I'm like, man, I want to check my phone. It feels like I've been here for 2 hours and it's only been an hour. I'm like, God, make your movies better. In this movie, I didn't want to check anything. I'm just in the story. I'm with our characters because Miles Morales is one of those characters that you really root for. You know, you're with him on everything. You're with him on the Gwen relationship. You're with him on his ideology that he wants to keep his dad alive, but he also wants to save the world because that's just the one way for everything to work out. You're with him. And this movie really had everything. I'm not changing my rating. It's still a 5 out of 5. If I could give a 6, I would give a 6. And it's going to go up on my favorite movies of all time because I'm going to keep watching it over and over again until the sequel comes out. This is one of those movies that I think you could watch every day if you're a big Spider-Man fan like me. And you can just get something new from it every single time. It's one of those movies where you could literally write like a 100-page essay on it because you could write a whole page or half a page on each scene that happens and explain every single little detail that the animators are putting in it. And I really respect them through that. They're putting in their whole, the work is paying off here. I feel like Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse have ruined animation for me now, which is kind of funny to say. And that's not really a bad remark towards other animators. I just feel like this new form of animation just provides so much artwork, but also detailed kind of work into a movie that I've ever seen before in my life. You look at this animation, then you look at Elemental, and you're like, man, I don't want to watch that because I get it. You know, you want to watch something that's just so mind-blowing that you've never seen it before. And we've seen Disney animation, Pixar animation, and Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. You've never seen anything like that in any form of media. Like, the closest you'll get is like a painting. And like some people have said, each shot is its own painting. Each shot could go up on your wall, go up on your computer screen, go up on your phone screen as a wallpaper. You know, it's literally a piece of artwork. I get when people call some film art, but this film identifies as art. I think it's just an art album. I think that I'm going to buy the little art book that they have for these movies when they make them. But this movie has literally ruined animation for me. Like, I can't go and say another animated film is better than this and looks better, because it doesn't. That would be a lie from me. I mean, I could say they look great, but this one looks amazing, and it's like, you're not going to beat it. I mean, the only one that's going to beat it is Sony themselves with Beyond the Spider-Verse. And that's what makes me confident in just saying that this is one of my new favorite films of all time. I think it just has infinite rewatchability. I think the characters are amazing. And I think that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are really just goats. They're goats with animation, and they're goats with writing the characters. I really identify with a lot of them. And I love their character choices that they do with these characters. Sometimes in these movies I don't like the character choices, but I really like them a lot. I could go on all day about this. Like, you got to talk in the comment sections about what you loved. I'd like to talk to all of you about it. So leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.